This is Mr. Octanet. Today we're going to be looking at more writing pins. But the first one being, in my opinion, a very important message, not just for writers, but I feel like for most people who are involved in any sort of artistry. Describing your writing as trash, whether you're still drafting, is like looking at a bag of flour and an egg and saying, my cake tastes like crap. Which is very accurate. Honestly, this is something I need to learn. A lot of the time I'll read these things to you. I'll tell you to try to apply some of them. And I myself may not apply them because I'm still a crappy writer. Right, so I'm reading this to you. I'm telling you, take this advice to heart. But I don't know if I can actually take this advice to heart myself because I am, as I explained in the previous video, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And I like, what I write to at least be like solid. Right? If not, good, just solid. Which oftentimes works against me when I'm trying to, start with a first draft and then try to make a plot that works. It really works against me a lot of the time. Another important thing to consider from Spacefish / Mambawi3. Is that how you pronounce that? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. But anyway, are you telling me that after I write one scene I have to figure out what's going to happen in the next one? Ridiculous. This whole hobby is ridiculous. Yeah, joke's on you. I'm not taking this as a hobby. I'm trying to get serious with writing. I'm trying to possibly get enough practice to be a published author sometime in the future. So this is an especially egregious problem with me because sometimes I'll be working on a single scene for a week. One scene. I have to work on one scene because either I partially have writer's block, or maybe it's just tough to figure out that particular scene, and then when I finally get that scene done, I have to follow that up with another scene. This is especially nightmarish when I'm still in the beginning of a chapter, right? Right, when I'm near the end of the chapter, it's like, okay, I can finish this scene, and I still have like 2 other scenes. Whatever, I can do that. And oh boy, this is gonna get nightmarish. Boy, especially if you don't have a lot of time per day to write. This can get very nightmarish, and it can absolutely dissuade you from continuing to write. To the point where you're just wondering, this whole thing is ridiculous. Why am I even doing this? Which I have asked myself that question so many times, but usually the thing I turn to is that, well, I'm not finding enough stories that fit with what I want, so I had to make them myself. That's how I kind of got into writing. Was there were a lot of story ideas I had that I wanted to see in movies, comic books, but I never found them, so I was like, okay, I'll do them myself. Me, as a writer, obsessed with being original, constantly worried that I'll copy another artist by accident. I can't use that phrase. I saw someone use it on May 12, 2014, and me as a writer, happy reads the billionth version of the exact same plot. I have a problem that's kind of similar, but not exactly this. See, I have kind of this issue of something I like to call the magnum opus, book. Just think about every writer, or a good deal of very big name writers kind of have their own magnum opuses, if you will. Jim Butcher, the Resident series, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, George R. R. Martin's The Game of Thrones, books that the writers obviously put a lot of thought into, and a lot of their heart into. That's kind of an idea that I have of a magnum opus book, but it's a book or rather a book series that I know for a fact that I will screw up on the first try. Now, screwing up on the first try is kind of, the points of a first draft. I'm pretty sure this is a book that I simply cannot do with the skills and knowledge I have right now. It's something that I kind of need to know how to do with experience. And I have very specific ideas for this magnum opus book series, which is why it becomes a problem when I try to write something else as, practice. And sometimes I find myself slipping into those ideas, or sometimes I'll take ideas from that magnum opus book in my mind, try to implement them in the book I'm currently writing without my awareness of it. This is something I actually did like a lot of research on, where I was like, is this just a problem with me, or do other people have this? Turns out no. Even seasoned writers kind of have an issue where they will just reuse ideas of things they've already written from before. It's kind of part of the thing about being a writer, is that you will realize you yourself will end up recycling ideas. Right? You will recycle ideas. The ideas that you had, you will recycle them and use them for something else, sometimes without even realizing it. And so really the best way to kind of counteract that is not to try to forcefully, make yourself write something wildly different from what you're currently doing, but from actually realizing this and trying to kind of work around it somehow. That's something I had to recently realize, and it's helped quite a bit. I'm now able to write something that is different from the magnum opus book in my mind that I know for a fact I cannot do right now. I need to write something much smaller scale, much more, kind of realistic, before I go up to that huge height that I see right above me. Just food for thought. Although this applies to me as well. There are definitely times where I'm like, am I a true writer, or am I just a hack who's copycatting other people's works? Although I find that it's not actually that big of a problem with me, because this is gonna sound very, very snobbish, but I seem to naturally make original things, or rather, I take ideas I've seen and then I somehow make it mostly original. I don't know. Just food for thought.